Looking for DIY tools that are actually worth buying? Here are 20 smart Amazon finds for easier projects, better results, and different budgets. Updated links are in the description. If you've ever tried measuring something while holding a piece of wood, a drill, or basically anything else at the same time, you'll probably appreciate how convenient this digital tape measure is. It combines the simplicity of a regular tape measure with a built-in digital display that gives you clear, easy-to-read measurements instantly. That may not sound revolutionary at first, but it actually makes a huge difference when you're working in awkward angles, darker spaces, or quick DIY projects where precision matters. It can store previous measurements, switch between units fast, and the rechargeable design means you're not constantly replacing batteries. It's one of those tools that feels unnecessary until you use it once, and then going back to a standard tape measure suddenly feels outdated. Perfect for home renovations, furniture setups, woodworking, or even simple wall decor projects where accurate measuring saves time and frustration. A good cordless drill is one of those tools you end up using way more than expected, and this Black & Decker kit makes a lot of sense for beginners and casual DIY users. It's lightweight, easy to handle, and powerful enough for everyday tasks like assembling furniture, mounting shelves, fixing cabinets, or drilling into wood and metal around the house. The 20-volt battery gives it enough strength without making the drill feel bulky or exhausting. After a few minutes of use, one thing people really like is how simple it feels straight out of the box, especially if you're not used to power tools. The adjustable clutch also helps prevent overdriving screws, which is great when working on delicate materials. It may not replace a heavy-duty professional drill for construction work, but for home projects, apartment upgrades, and weekend fixes, it covers almost everything most people actually need. Tiny screws are probably one of the fastest ways to turn a simple repair into a frustrating mess, especially when you're working on electronics, glasses, watches, laptops, or gaming controllers. That's where a precision screwdriver kit like this becomes incredibly useful. Instead of digging through random tools hoping something fits, you get a clean, organized set with multiple bit sizes designed for delicate work. The handle feels surprisingly solid and comfortable, and the magnetic tips make handling tiny screws much easier, especially when working in tight spaces. It's the kind of tool that quietly saves the day when you need to replace a phone battery, fix a loose hinge, upgrade computer parts, or open small devices without damaging them. The compact case also makes it easy to store in a drawer or backpack without taking up space. For anyone who likes repairing things instead of throwing them away, this is one of those inexpensive tools that quickly proves its value. There's a big difference between using a regular screwdriver once in a while and spending half an hour tightening dozens of screws during a project. That's exactly why compact electric screwdrivers like this one are so handy around the house. It's small, lightweight, and much more comfortable for repetitive tasks like assembling furniture, installing curtain rods, mounting shelves, or working on cabinets. The built-in flashlight is actually more useful than it sounds, especially when you're working under sinks, inside closets, or in darker corners where visibility becomes annoying fast. One detail people tend to appreciate is the pivoting handle, which lets you switch between a straight grip and a pistol grip, depending on the angle you need. It's not designed for heavy drilling or demanding construction work, but for everyday DIY jobs, it saves time and makes simple projects feel way less tiring. Definitely one of those tools you end up reaching for constantly once you own it. If you're enjoying the video, subscribe. We post similar content every day. An oscillating multi-tool is one of those DIY tools that doesn't seem essential until you run into a project where nothing else works as easily. This thing can sand, scrape, cut, trim, and get into tight spaces where larger tools become awkward or impossible to use. It's especially useful for home renovation jobs like cutting drywall, removing old caulk, trimming door frames, sanding corners, or making quick adjustments during flooring installs. What makes it practical is the versatility. Instead of buying separate tools for every small task, you swap attachments and keep moving. The variable speed control also helps when working on delicate materials that need a little more precision. It does create some vibration during longer sessions, which is pretty normal for tools like this, but the side handle helps with control. For DIY users who enjoy fixing, upgrading, or customizing things around the house, this is one of the most surprisingly useful additions you can have in a toolbox. A rotary tool like this is basically the definition of a versatile DIY gadget. It's the kind of tool people buy for one specific project and then keep finding new uses for every few weeks. You can use it for cutting, sanding, polishing, engraving, sharpening, grinding, or detailed crafting work that larger tools simply can't handle with the same precision. What makes this kit especially practical is the huge variety of included attachments, so you can jump between different tasks without needing extra equipment right away. It's great for woodworking, metal cleanup, small home repairs, model making, or even restoring old tools and furniture details. The variable speed control also helps a lot when switching between delicate work and tougher materials. There is a bit of a learning curve if you've never used a rotary tool before, but once you get comfortable with it, you start realizing how many random jobs around the house suddenly become easier, cleaner, and much more precise. Installing tile can go from satisfying to incredibly frustrating the moment pieces stop lining up properly. And that's exactly why tile leveling systems like this are so useful. Instead of constantly adjusting tiles by hand and hoping everything dries evenly, these clips and wedges help keep surfaces level and spacing consistent while the adhesive sets. That means fewer uneven edges, cleaner lines, and a much more professional-looking result, even if it's your first time doing tile work. It's especially helpful for larger floor tiles where tiny height differences become very noticeable once the project is finished. The tool itself also makes tightening the wedges faster and more consistent, which saves a surprising amount of time during bigger installs. Whether you're working on a bathroom renovation, kitchen backsplash, or laundry room floor, this kind of setup removes a lot of the stress from the process. For DIY home upgrades, it's one of those affordable tools that can seriously improve the final result. For quick yard work and small outdoor projects, mini chainsaws like this are surprisingly practical. They're much lighter and easier to control than a full-size chainsaw, which makes a huge difference when trimming branches, cutting small logs, cleaning up after storms, or handling basic tree maintenance around the house. The cordless design also makes everything feel more convenient since you're not dragging extension cords across the yard or dealing with gas and maintenance headaches. What people usually like most is how approachable it feels, especially for homeowners who don't need a massive professional tool just to handle occasional cutting jobs. The included extra battery is also useful because it lets you keep working without constantly stopping to recharge. Of course, it's not built for cutting down large trees or heavy-duty lumber work, but that's not really the point. For lightweight outdoor tasks, camping setups, or simple backyard maintenance, it's one of those tools that saves both time and effort almost immediately. A cordless hot glue gun might sound like a simple craft tool, but it becomes incredibly useful once you start doing DIY projects around the house. The biggest advantage here is freedom of movement. You're not fighting with a cord while trying to decorate, repair something, organize cables, or work on detailed projects in awkward spots. It heats up quickly, feels lightweight in the hand, and the compact design makes it easier to control than those bulky old-school glue guns most people are used to. It's especially handy for quick home fixes, holiday decorations, small woodworking projects, fabric repairs, or creative hobbies where you need fast bonding without waiting forever for adhesives to dry. The automatic shutoff feature is also a nice touch for safety and battery life. Obviously, it's not meant for heavy construction or industrial strength bonding, but for everyday DIY tasks and creative projects, it's one of those inexpensive tools that ends up being useful way more often than expected. Remember that all the links are in the description. You can compare prices and read customer reviews. Cleaning up after DIY projects is usually the least enjoyable part, especially when you're dealing with dust, spills, pet hair, or random debris spread across hard floors. That's what makes compact wet and dry vacuums like this so appealing. Instead of sweeping first and then mopping afterward, it handles both jobs at the same time, which honestly saves a lot more time than you'd expect. The slim design also helps it reach under furniture and tighter spaces without needing to move everything around constantly. It's lightweight enough for everyday use, and the cordless setup makes quick cleanups feel much less annoying. One thing people really appreciate is how useful it becomes in busy homes where messes happen constantly, whether it's muddy shoes, kitchen spills, workshop dust, or pet accidents. It's obviously more of a maintenance cleaner than a heavy industrial vacuum, but for keeping floors looking clean without turning it into a whole chore, it's a seriously convenient tool to have around. Every DIY setup benefits from having one reliable socket wrench set nearby, because sooner or later, you'll end up tightening bolts, assembling equipment, fixing furniture, or working on something that a regular screwdriver just can't handle properly. What makes a compact set like this useful is the variety. You get multiple socket sizes, extension pieces, screwdriver bits, and a ratcheting handle that makes repetitive turning much faster and smoother, especially in tight spaces where full rotations are impossible. It's the kind of toolkit that works equally well for car maintenance, bike repairs, appliances, home projects, or random fixes that pop up unexpectedly. The carrying case also keeps everything organized, so you're not constantly searching for missing pieces in drawers or toolboxes. It's obviously not aimed at professional mechanics working all day in a garage, but for homeowners, apartment setups, and general DIY use, it covers a huge range of everyday repairs without taking up much space at all. Good lighting can completely change how easy a project feels, especially when you're working in garages, attics, basements, crawl spaces, or outside after sunset. Portable work lights like this are one of those tools people underestimate until they actually use one during a repair or renovation. The brightness makes it much easier to see details clearly, which helps avoid mistakes and reduces eye strain during longer projects. Since it runs on compatible power tool batteries, you also get the convenience of cordless portability without constantly searching for outlets or dragging extension cords everywhere. The adjustable angle is another small detail that ends up being genuinely useful because you can aim the light exactly where you need it instead of balancing flashlights in awkward positions. It's especially practical for car work, painting, electrical repairs, emergency power outages, or late-night DIY sessions. Simple tool overall, but once you have reliable lighting during projects, it's surprisingly hard to go back without it. Heat guns are one of those tools that seem oddly specific until you realize how many random DIY situations they actually solve. This one can be used for stripping paint, removing stickers, loosening old adhesive, bending plastic, shrinking heat wrap, thawing frozen pipes, or even speeding up drying times during certain projects. The adjustable temperature settings make a big difference because some materials need gentle heat, while others require much higher temperatures to work properly. It also comes with multiple nozzle attachments that help direct airflow more precisely depending on the task. What makes a heat gun especially useful for DIY users is how quickly it handles jobs that would otherwise become frustrating and time-consuming by hand. It does get extremely hot, so it's definitely a tool that requires a little caution and patience while learning. But once you start using it, you begin noticing all kinds of situations where controlled heat can make repairs, renovations, and creative projects much easier to manage. Few things are more annoying than drilling into a wall and realizing you completely missed the stud or almost hit electrical wiring. That's why stud finders like this are such a useful tool for DIY projects around the house. It helps locate wooden studs behind drywall so you can mount shelves, TVs, mirrors, cabinets, or heavy decor much more securely instead of just hoping for the best with drywall anchors. The deep scan mode is especially helpful for thicker walls, and the wire warning feature adds an extra layer of confidence before drilling. What makes tools like this worth having is the amount of guesswork they remove from projects that can become expensive mistakes very quickly. It's compact, simple to use, and one of those things you'll probably forget about until the exact moment you really need it. For home upgrades, apartment setups, or even basic wall mounting jobs, it's a small tool that can save a lot of frustration and unnecessary wall repairs later on. If you don't have a proper workspace at home, projects become way more frustrating than they need to be. That's why folding workbenches like this are such a smart setup for DIY users. You get a sturdy surface for cutting, sanding, drilling, painting, or assembling projects, but without permanently sacrificing garage or storage space. The built-in clamps are especially useful because they hold materials securely in place while you work, which makes everything feel safer and more precise. When you're done, the whole thing folds down compact enough to store against a wall or inside a closet. It's surprisingly practical for people living in apartments, smaller homes, or anyone who doesn't have a dedicated workshop. The work surface also includes measurement guides and accessory slots that make projects feel more organized overall. It's obviously not replacing a massive professional woodworking station, but for casual DIY builds, repairs, and home improvement projects, it creates a much more comfortable and efficient workspace almost instantly. Painting furniture, fences, cabinets, or walls with regular brushes and rollers can take forever, especially if you want a smooth finish without visible streaks. That's where electric paint sprayers like this become incredibly useful. They spread paint much faster and more evenly, which makes bigger projects feel far less exhausting and time-consuming. The adjustable spray settings are also helpful because different projects need different paint flow and spray patterns depending on the surface. It works well for furniture makeovers, garage projects, outdoor fences, doors, and DIY home renovations where clean coverage matters. One thing people quickly notice is how much more professional the final result can look once you get the hang of it. There is definitely a little setup and cleanup involved compared to using a simple roller, but the time saved on larger projects usually makes it worth it. For DIY users planning multiple painting projects, this can seriously upgrade both speed and overall finish quality. Angle grinders are definitely one of the more aggressive tools in a DIY setup, but they're also incredibly useful once you learn what they can do. This type of tool can cut metal, grind rough edges, remove rust, sharpen blades, clean welds, and even help with tile or masonry work depending on the disc you use. What makes it so practical is the combination of speed and power. Jobs that would take forever by hand suddenly become quick and manageable. The side handle also gives you better control during tougher cuts, which is important because angle grinders are powerful enough to demand a little respect while using them. It's not really a beginner tool for casual home decorating projects, but for garage work, metal repairs, fabrication, renovation jobs, or serious DIY upgrades, it opens up a lot of possibilities. Once you get comfortable handling it safely, it becomes one of those tools that can save huge amounts of time and effort on demanding projects. This might look like a gimmick at first, but magnetic wristbands are honestly one of those small DIY accessories that become weirdly useful once you start using them. If you've ever climbed a ladder while holding screws in your mouth or constantly dropped hardware while assembling something, this solves that problem immediately. The built-in magnets keep screws, nails, drill bits, washers, and small tools right on your wrist, so everything stays within reach while you work. It's especially handy for overhead projects, furniture assembly, electrical work, or tight spaces where constantly reaching into pockets gets annoying fast. The lightweight design also makes it comfortable enough to wear during longer projects without feeling bulky. Obviously, it's not some life-changing power tool, but it's one of those simple quality-of-life upgrades that quietly makes DIY work smoother and less frustrating. Once you get used to having hardware instantly accessible on your wrist, going back feels surprisingly inconvenient. Trying to hang shelves, align frames, install cabinets, or mount a TV without a level usually turns into a lot of guessing and constant readjusting. That's why laser levels like this are such a game changer for DIY projects. Instead of manually checking every angle over and over, it projects clear horizontal and vertical guidelines directly onto the wall, making alignment much faster and way more accurate. It's especially useful for home renovations, tile layouts, picture walls, curtain rods, and furniture installation where uneven lines become very noticeable once everything is finished. The included tripod also helps keep the setup stable and adjustable depending on the height you need. One of the best parts is how much more professional projects start to look when everything lines up correctly the first time. It's compact, easy to use, and one of those tools that removes a surprising amount of frustration from home improvement work, especially for people who enjoy clean, organized results. Clamps are one of those tools that don't seem exciting until you actually start building or repairing things. The moment you need both hands free while glue dries, pieces stay aligned, or materials stop shifting around, you realize how important a good clamp set really is. These quick-release clamps are especially convenient because they're fast to adjust and easy to use with one hand, which helps a lot during woodworking, crafting, repairs, or small furniture projects. They hold materials securely without requiring complicated setups, and the padded grips help avoid damaging softer surfaces while working. The smaller spring clamps are also great for lightweight tasks like holding fabric, cardboard cables, or thin wood pieces in place temporarily. It's definitely one of those simple workshop essentials that quietly improves almost every project once you have them nearby. Whether you're gluing, cutting, painting, or assembling something, having reliable clamps makes the entire process feel cleaner, safer, and much less frustrating overall.